Good evening, afternoon, people of the internet. Specifically, Amelia and Aaron, this is another continuation on our conversation on sexuality, gender, polyamory. Yeah, Aaron, when it comes to polygamy, I agree it does seem to open up options, especially for women with kids. And you kind of seem to be describing pretty much your situation with Aaron, Rose, and Amelia, where your wife shares many of the responsibilities with Amelia, giving her lots more time. And I was thinking about this, how like if you do a job 24 hours a day and that's all you do, then your brain is going to become a machine that's tuned for doing that job. And you kind of lose your individuality and identity to somewhat in the process. And yeah, I don't think that's good at all. It would probably, yeah, I think being a very defined, real, individuated person probably makes you a better parent anyway. So yeah, I do like the idea of basically your situation, Aaron. On an emotional level, polygamy doesn't appeal to me because like I already value my alone time to make art and do all these things, and I'm already stretching myself thin to give my girlfriend the time and attention she wants. And so the idea of bringing another involved emotional connection into my life is just not appealing at all. But your situation, or like the whole extended family kind of Italian upbringing, I think that sounds great. Apparently, that was the more classic way in which kids were raised. It wasn't just a man and a woman; it was more of an extended family that raised kids, and I think that's personally more attractive to me. But it's not the polygamy aspect of it. It's the extended family and giving both partners lots of help, basically, and of course, still giving the child a consistent, figure to attach to. And Aaron, I also agree with your take on polyamory, how it's basically just not worth your time to like pursue the girls that you'd be attracted to because they're generally the kind of people who would want a more committed relationship. And so it just doesn't really make sense. Yeah, it just kind of lines up that way. Yeah, also, I'm just like very satisfied in my relationship. So, like, the idea of like putting a lot of effort into seeking something out just doesn't really make a lot of sense. And this is the part where it gets into the very interesting stuff, the stuff on jealousy. Because I won't say I disagree with you guys because I'm not even sure if I totally understand what you're saying. I do tend to think that jealousy in general is an expression of insecurity. And by that I mean that if you're jealous about your partner spending a lot of time with someone, it's because you feel insecure about your connection with them and your established trust and relationship and all that. Now, I do think that there's a thing separate from that, which is just like if my partner was spending a lot of time with someone and I wasn't getting what I needed, yeah, that's certainly valid to say, I'm not getting what I need in this relationship. Uh, so either that needs to change or we need to go our separate ways. But that happens even if you're just in a monogamous relationship where you could say to your partner, I'm not getting what I need. It seems like a separate emotion almost from jealousy. And I do agree that jealousy isn't a very useful way of looking at it. Um, in general, I think a more accurate way of looking at it is insecurities. But I am fascinated by this whole other side of it that you're bringing up, Aaron, where you talk about how your exes were, not okay with you being with men, but they were okay with you, or they weren't okay with you being with men, but they were okay with you being with men, but they weren't okay with you being with women. And now Rose is the opposite, and I think that's very interesting. And yeah, you mentioned gender identity and life strategy, and I'm going to assume that what you mean by that is that, for instance, if I define myself in a certain way, like these are my values, these are my abilities, these are my strengths, this is what I have to offer. And if I see someone very close to that, competing with me, so to speak, then I'm going to be more threatened than if someone is very different. Because if someone's very different, I might assume that they're like satisfying this person on a very different level. So I wouldn't feel as threatened that they're going to replace me, so to speak. So I'm going to assume that's what you mean by that, and I can certainly relate. That makes a lot of sense. The idea of being invested in a certain life strategy, it would be threatened by certain kinds of competition. But I still think it's certainly an expression of insecurity. And I'm not sure if you guys disagree with the idea that jealousy is an expression of insecurity or not. And we might just have a slightly different definition of jealousy because, yeah, when I think of jealousy, I think of where you basically want to limit the other person's life and their interactions, and because it makes you feel like things could move in another direction. There's such a thing as an irrational jealousy where, my girlfriend talks to a guy and I'm like, not cool. If you're going to talk to a guy, it better have a strict purpose, or you can't just be chatting. Like that's just, I'm just trying to put her in a cage because I'm terrified of change, basically. Yeah, so I would like to know more about your take, Aaron, on like where you're coming from when you say it's much more about gender identity and life strategies. Like maybe we could use Rose as an example. I'm very fascinated as to why she's very uncomfortable with the idea of you being with a guy, for instance, and she's fine with you being with a girl. Yeah, I don't really know where you guys are coming from, but I won't say I disagree because, yeah, I don't really know, but it doesn't really resonate with me. I tend to think, yeah, it's all about insecurities. And when it's not about insecurities, it's about the recognition that you're not receiving what you want in life. And yeah, maybe that's a good divide to make. Amelia, I actually read The Ethical Slut like a decade ago, and it probably put a worm in my brain. And yeah, I definitely agree. It's all about communication. But I do really agree that it is possible, or it is very important, that if someone is expressing an insecurity or a jealousy, that you hear them and you take them seriously, and you don't just say, "Oh, you're just trying to limit me and put me in a box," because yeah, that's not all that's happening. The person could just be saying, "Hey, just so you know, this is where I'm at right now. This is my emotional state, and if you want to relate to me and connect with me, you got to know this." Another interesting aspect of this is the idea of how much do you want to know about your partner's polyamory experiences, and that I think is very subjective. Like I think it's very fascinating that, for instance, Rose seems very, very comfortable knowing lots of details. Like personally, if I respect the individual involved, like if my girlfriend is pursuing someone and I respect them, then I'm very comfortable with details. Details don't bother me, and it almost kind of fascinates me because I'm learning more about my girlfriend. But if it's someone that's like, I don't know, my girlfriend just has the hots for this kind of dirtbag and they're just gonna have like a wild night and blow off steam, and I don't really respect the guy, then like I'm still okay with the situation because it's like my girlfriend wants peanut butter ice cream and she likes that, and I'm like, ew, peanut butter ice cream, that's kind of gross and I'm not into that and I don't really want to, be involved, but all the power to you. Like as long as she's honest with me, it's still fine. But yeah, in that situation, if I don't really respect the guy, if I think he's kind of a jerk, then I'm less interested in details. But yeah, that's a very interesting aspect of it, is that yeah, yeah, people are all so different, and their preferences are always evolving as they hone their instincts and they get experience with reality. And so I do very much agree, Aaron, that it's very true that we probably are much more complex than we believe at any given time. And yeah, you need to be open with the idea that you're probably going to change, and you're probably going to have emerging feelings that you didn't necessarily predict. And going back to the whole jealousy and insecurity thing, if it is the case that you believe that insecurities are not the reason that, for instance, Rose is not okay with you sleeping with a guy, yeah, I'm very curious. Like, what would be the source of that then? I'm sure you guys talk about it, and I mean, if you guys aren't comfortable talking about any part of this, I'm totally okay with that. But yeah, I'm just fascinated. Like, if it wasn't insecurities that caused Rose to ask this of you, then what would it be? The flip side of this person is very similar to me and therefore is a competitor. Like maybe if someone is so different and you're attracted to them, then that could represent a change or a shift in your desires. Like maybe you're going to change teams, so to speak. So I could see that she's maybe worried that if you were all of a sudden pursuing a man or attracted to a man, that you're no longer going to be interested in the established relationship that you have, which once again would be insecurity. But yeah, I'm just kind of I'm real curious, basically, is what I'm saying. And Amelia, something that you said that I really think is awesome is the idea that, yeah, a partner should be very comfortable talking about insecurities. And that, like, if they're in a situation where, like you said, they don't feel very good about themselves that week, they need to be able to say, you know what, I don't feel great about my body or whatever, or just my relationship with you or something. And I need you to know that if you did something or if you pursued someone, that that would probably create tension or conflict or a problem. And I think that's like that's awesome. The idea of just yeah, being honest and open about your insecurities when they happen. And yeah, as long as you're in a situation where someone can actually hear you and respect what you're saying and not just be like, oh, well, yeah, you're just trying to limit me and hurt me. And I mean, in a sense, like that is often the response to jealousy and insecurities is the person out of fear, as a natural response, tries to limit the person. But it's not that that's their intention. Their intention, well, there is no intention. It's like an emotional reaction. It's a yeah. And that is the end of my list. So I might have breezed past some interesting things you guys talked about, but I don't know. Those are the things that jumped out at me. And there's a lot of things you guys said that I just agree with because they're true. But yeah, I feel like those are the extent of my thoughts at the moment, and I really appreciate you guys being so candid. And yeah, I don't care what you guys talk about. You guys should make videos to me on anything, and I will respond. Because yeah, even if you guys say things that I disagree, I'm fascinated with the opportunity to disagree in a respectful context, wherein I know that people will continue to respect me even if I disagree. It's great. Just fucking the best. So, thanks again. Peace.